Hi guys, and welcome to episode 89 of the Crochet Cakes podcast. A podcast all about crochet and whatever crafty ventures catch my fancy. Incidentally, also welcome to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel, which is a YouTube channel about all crafty endeavors. Because I've also uploaded podcasts, but I've been uploading tutorials in English and in Spanish for your viewing pleasure. And I hope it is your viewing pleasure and I'm just not imposing my beliefs onto you. But anyway, hello and welcome. Today I have several things I'm going to be chatting to you about, mainly about the Latin Maker Mal 2020, which is a Ravelry thread that's open already. I know I opened it about 2 days late, but anyway, the Mal started on the 15th of September and it runs until the 15th of October, and it is my way, our way of celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. Now, if you're new, Puerto Rican. I'm from Puerto Rico, the beautiful island in the Caribbean. So I'm not used to celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month because to us it's Hispanic Heritage Month all the time. But since I'm not home right now, I really want to celebrate my roots. And as such, in the last episode, episode 88, which I will tag somewhere here for you, I posted a little bit about the basis or my connection with crafting as a Puerto Rican, and it all comes back to the food. If you're new here, maybe you don't know that I am a real foodie. I love cake, I love baking, I love eating. I don't like washing dishes though, but I don't think I'm alone in that sentiment, so we can ignore that. But yes, so I brought to you what I call the green goddess of Puerto Rican cooking, which is sofrito, and it's of course for the food portion. It is not a dessert portion. And I will also link here and down below as well the 12 Days of Christmas Cooking, in which I shared with you some of my favorite recipes, but also some Puerto Rican recipes, so you can start preparing for a Hispanic holiday if you wish. So today we're going to continue with that Latin Maker Mal theme because, as I said, it's already started, and you can participate through Instagram as well as through Ravelry. I will just be putting the posts kind of together, the people that are participating both in Instagram and Ravelry. I'll be pulling them together for a nice little prize at the end, because I know we don't really do things for the prizes, but they're a nice incentive. And in case I didn't make that clear in the last podcast, it is open to everyone. Do not feel limited. I've browsed through Ravelry and I know that some of the Hispanic makers, they do patterns in English and in Spanish, and in some cases they're charts. So if you're familiar with charts, you can follow along with the charts, and there are tons of YouTube videos as well. So if you're more of a visual person, you can follow along, and I know that some of those channels have English subtitles. So yeah, we can all participate and just find ways to grow our craft. And I am calling it a Mal because you can do whatever craft catches your fancy. If you feel like trying Hispanic recipes you've never tried before, then please feel free to include those. Honestly, I do not mind because, as I said, I mostly connect with my Puerto Rican ancestry through cooking. I always feel connected to my mom, my grandmothers, and my aunts whenever I'm in the kitchen whipping up some delicious meals. So there's that. But in today's episode, I will also be chatting to you about Hispanic writers, because books, you can find those translated into any language easily enough. But more on that a bit later on in the podcast. I feel like I've chatted to you a lot, just like bombarded you with information. But it's been a while, yeah? And whenever I sit in front of the camera, I'm always like, oh my God, what am I gonna say? And then I start talking and I don't stop. Seriously, guys, I think I sit here talking to my camera for an hour and then I condense that to a 30-minute episode because I know most of us don't have the time to just sit for an hour straight. And I want to spend as much crafty time with you as possible, but I also want it to be a productive crafty time for you. But how have you guys been? Have you guys been doing okay? I know it's been a bit of a hard week. You know, of course, on top of all the coronavirus, social unrest, racism, and everything else that we can counter, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed on. But I think she has left us with many lessons, and because of her, we can live and strive for a better world, an equal world in every sense of the word. So while it is very sad, and I'm not diminishing that, I also feel that we benefited a lot from her, and we can learn a lot from her, and that's something that she has left behind that we can always look back to and feel connected to her and to all other females that can be on this planet. So yeah, I just wanted to say that to begin with, because we might feel, and rightly so, that we're just being hit in every direction with bad news, and sometimes it feels hard to just find the will to keep going and to keep working for what we want. And I'm not diminishing that in any way, because I've been feeling that way too. I think ever since August started dwindling down and I've been welcoming my favorite season, I've still felt let down. I've felt bombarded, and I've felt like as Bilbo Baggins said, like bread spread with too much butter. I think that's what he said. I'm not sure. But you guys know what I mean. Like, you just stretched a bit too thin, you know? Like, you rolled that pizza dough way too much, and you've got a hole in the middle that you now need to patch up. So that's how I've been feeling. But I have been trying to do little things here and there to cheer myself up, and it's mainly been crochet. So I'm just going to dive right in with some of the crochet. As I've said, Latin Maker Mal is in full swing, and because of that, I've already finished something which you can or cannot relate to the Latin Maker Mal. I'm relating it. And I finished the first crochet pumpkin of the season, and I'm very happy with it. I know it's very flat, but I just think it looks so cute. So what I did to make this pumpkin is I just follow the advice of an Instagram friend, and I just made kind of like a basketball shape. Mine wasn't too basketball-y, obviously, because we've got flat pumpkin, but so I just increased in the round. I started with 6 single crochets, and then I just kept increasing until I single crocheted 7 and then increased. And then I think I did 8 rows of straight single crochet, and then I just decreased. But the reason I'm putting this as part of the Latin Maker Mal is because I went on YouTube to search for some Hispanic makers that had tutorials, and of course I found some. And I really liked the leaf and the little vine that she made for the pumpkin, so I followed her tutorial on how to make those. I'll link this tutorial down below for you guys, but I followed her tutorial, and I also followed it for the little nubbin up at the top of the pumpkin, and I'm just super happy with it. So what I did was I held 2 worsted weight yarns together. I had Red Heart Pumpkin in my stash, which is kind of frankly a garish orange color that is not too attractive. And then I had the burnt orange left over from another project that I'll be sharing with you, and that burnt orange was Big Twist Value from Joann's. So I held those 2 together, and it created this beautiful shading. I'm holding it up really close to the camera so you can see it in better detail. And I used a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook, and I used 2 yarns held together as well for the leaves and the little vine. And this is Karen's. Sorry about that, my memory card was full. I thought I had emptied it, but I believe we were chatting about this pumpkin. So for the leaf, as I mentioned, I followed the tutorial that I'm linking down below, and it was how to make a pumpkin and a witch brew, which I thought was super cute. Anyway, so I've used for the green leaf, which isn't it the cutest leaf ever? I've used Caron Simply Soft in the chartreuse colorway and a Red Heart soft yarn that I'm not quite sure what color it's in, but it looks to be kind of a light baby green, and I think it pairs really well with the chartreuse because they're both the colors aren't matte. They have a bit of a sheen to it. And for the little nubbin there, I just used Lion Brand 24/7 cotton in, I think it's the ivory color. But I am super happy with how this pumpkin turned out, and I can't wait to make more. But it was really hard on my hands, I will say that, especially because I've been using a technique for crochet color work, the project I'll be showing you in a little bit, and basically what you do is that you yarn under instead of yarn over, so that you pick up kind of your stitches smaller, and my gauge was really tight with that. So when I was inserting my hook into the stitch, I was yarning under, and then when I was going to make the actual single crochet, I would yarn over and pull through just to make it a little bit easier on my hands. But it's honestly the cutest pumpkin I've ever crocheted. Granted, I've only done, this is the third one, but third one's the charm. I really think that the little leaf detail and the vine from the tutorial just make it oh so gorgeous, gorgeous. So I'm very happy with that finished object. The other finished object that I have to share with you is part of a tutorial. That's what I've really been working on this past 2 weeks. It's a lot of admin work. So I've been doing tutorials, writing out patterns. There hasn't been much call to design, but the other night I had a dream, and in that dream I was crocheting my husband's sweater that I'm going to make him for Christmas. He wanted something that was Zelda inspired, and I think I got it, guys. I think I got it. What I'm going to do is going to do a yoke sweater, and I'm going to put some arrowhead details on the sleeves because it's Zelda. And maybe maybe if I find the courage, I will cross stitch over some stitches to create a link shadow. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. But I was talking about the tutorial that I was working on, and it was for this oven mitt that I shared with you last time, and I'll put a little video of me using it so you won't be afraid. It's very, very safe, honestly. I've held a cast iron skillet at 425 degrees with it, hold it out of the oven, no problem. So this mitt is made using the Afghan Stitch, and it's been adapted from a vintage book that had the pattern. It's a McCall's vintage book. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I found it while I was thrifting, or more like the charity shop, because the store that I like to frequent for my craft books and all that is a charity shop. They support animal shelters. So this mitt has the crochet mitt, and then we sew a lining. The batting is just facing the crochet, and then, you know, it's nice and properly lined. I've made 3 versions of this mitt now, and I almost made a 4th, so I've used 3 different yarns for them. This one that I'm holding up right now, which is kind of a salmon-y pink in your face color, it's sugar and cream. Oh my god, I always get those confused, but I'm pretty sure it's sugar and cream. It's the yarn that you can find at Joann's. And then the one that I made the tutorial with, this is a Drops cotton. It's Drops Paris 100% cotton yarn. And personally, I prefer the sugar and cream. It produces a thicker fabric, which I think for oven wear is much safer than the Drops. The first mitt that I'll put a video here that I'm using to take out some cinnamon rolls that I made this morning, I made it also in Drops Paris yarn, and it's perfectly serviceable, but I think I prefer the sugar and cream yarn. So that's mitt tutorial is, I'm going to be editing that, and I probably will release the pattern in November. I'll see how I'm going to be planning my pattern releases, because for next month, which is October, I'm releasing the Egyptian inspired top, and I was going to release a pair of crochet socks, but I put stop on those, and I will tell you why in a minute. So actually, literally, I'll tell you why now, because they're in my line of vision. So this was the other tutorial I was working on, but as I said, I put a cap on that because I was invited to take part in a pattern bundle that will be released during Christmas. I think it's from the 26th of December to the 31st of December only. And after that, the patterns won't be available in the bundle. They'll just be available individually or to do whatever the designer wishes to do with them. So I was doing a tutorial for these socks, and they're very simple socks. They start with my typical U-toe and then they just go up. And I'm using a colorway that I exchanged a crochet hook pouch from the lovely Melissa at Acorn Willows. She still dyes yarn, I think. I don't think it's no longer available on her Etsy store. She does a lot of local things, but maybe you can message her on Instagram. I'll include her Instagram handle down below linked so you can check out her Instagram page. She's a gorgeous, gorgeous artist. And I've mentioned her before because I bought my mushroom woman from her. So she's super, super talented. She's a wool artist, and I'll put that up later because podcast. Okay, back to the socks. So I really wanted to make kind of an autumnal looking pair of socks that was simple. Several people have asked me for sock tutorials, and I finally found the time, the brain power, and the energy to sit down and film one. So this is one finished sock. What am I gonna say? This pattern will probably come out in January instead of October because I'm going to be releasing it first in the pattern bundle, and then later I'll be releasing it. But I'm really excited to take part in the pattern bundle, and I hope you enjoy it. I don't have any information to give you right now, but when I do, I'll put it down below. And if you want to support other makers with a gorgeous pattern bundle, I can tell you the theme though. The theme is supposed to be things that you would crochet for yourself, for your own self-care, because during Christmas, us crafters tend to prioritize other people over ourselves. So I thought it was a very, very nice theme, and I wanted to make a pair of socks for it because I think that you want to rest your hands, but you also want a cookie project after you've done all your Christmas gifting. So that's me. So technically that's a 9.5 finished object. It's a half finished object. I already talked about my pumpkin, but we are going into full-on pumpkin season mode because the other project that I have to share with you is a pattern test that I did for Mind and Muse Crafts, who is a Puerto Rican crochet designer, maker, jeweler, and she's my mom. So I'm biased. I think she's amazing, but trust me, if you check out the stuff she makes, you'll think she's amazing too. So what I ended up testing was a pattern that I asked her to design for me. I wanted a cushion for my couch, a fall themed cushion, and I wanted to make it for the Latin Maker Mal 2020. So she acquiesced to my request, and this is what we have. We have a, so let me first talk you through the design, right? So we've got a pumpkin silhouette, and inside we have the words otoño, and otoño is Spanish for fall. And I really like it because I don't think you find, at least not in the States, that any stores that I've been to, you don't find fall written in many languages. So I thought this was perfect and I love it. So it's basically Intarsia Crochet. So once I've woven the ends, the back and the front will be the same. I made some mistakes because I was following the chart only, and at some point I mixed up my right side and my front side. But for the most part, you could definitely tell that it's a pumpkin silhouette, and I chose a white background, and then I did the pumpkin silhouette in the burnt orange colorway that I bought from Joanne. It's Big Twist. And I did the inside in the gold colorway from Red Heart Super Saver because Big Twist was out of their mustard yellow, which is what I was really after. And once I finished it, I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, it looks autumnal, but it also looks like candy corn. So I scrapped the idea for the back that I was doing. Now the pattern as is written, it's only for this front part because you can use it as a wall hanging, you can frame it, you can use it as a tapestry, or you can do what I'm doing, and it's that I'm going to turn it into a cushion. So once I realized that my colors were very candy cornish, I scrapped the idea of doing stripes of colors for the back of the cushion, and I kept the theme of the pumpkin because I thought, well, hey, I have a pumpkin silhouette in the front, so why don't I color in the pumpkin in the back? Now I know it's going to be flatter, so what I decided was, since I didn't want it to be flat, that I would do the border in the gold, so the part outside silhouette part in the gold, and then the inside in the burnt orange. The pattern is not written like this, but I will have notes for it on Ravelry when the pattern is released, because what I'm essentially doing is keeping track of my color 1. I left color 1, color 2, and color 3 the same. And what I'm just doing is filling in the pumpkin, so I'm making sure that whatever stitch counts I have be sandwiched between the outside silhouettes is in orange. And this is going to be a bit of a hassle showing you because it's color work, and color work involves a lot of yarn, and I've lost balls already. Okay. So forgive me for being, I'm not shy about showing it. I'm trying to hold on to the yarn. So this is what I've got. It's a white background, or white borders, and then we have the gold bordering the pumpkin, and then I'm just filling it in as I go along. Now since I'm filling it in completely in the orange, it's a lot faster going than the front part where you are working in, I think I had 6 balls, because I ended up just carrying my white yarn. I was like, no way am I just doing more balls of white. So I ended up carrying my white yarn, but I made 6 balls of the orange color, and they were 14 gram balls, and I ended up having about 12 and 10 grams left over of each ball. So it doesn't really use a lot of yarn. And yeah, so these are, oh, I didn't tell you, the white is also Bernat Big Twist value in just white. I had it in my stash actually, and I thought I would need more, so I bought a whole other skein of it, and I don't need it, but I might make something out of it. Who knows? Okay, so those are all my pumpkin themes that I'm really, really happy about because it's the autumnal equinox this Tuesday. I don't know what day I'm living. I know it's Sunday, but I don't know the day. The date, the number. I don't know it. But the autumnal equinox is a good time to complete things and to review what has been of your year and to move what you want to do going forward during the year. So I thought it was great that I'm working on some pumpkin themed projects when the autumnal equinox is approaching, and I will hopefully be able to complete them during the autumnal equinox. I think that'll be some really, really good energy to put into my projects. All right, so what else have I been up to? In terms of designs, like I said, they're all up here, but they haven't percolated down to my hands and grabbed the yarn and made it. I've honestly been struggling a lot with inclination to work on my own designs. And that's mostly because I've really been trying to make it work as a blogger and pattern designer. And I knew it was going to be an uphill battle, like, please. But I was kind of hoping to be at a certain point in 6 months of doing it full time, and I'm not. So I've just been beating myself up over it, but hey, as long as I keep working towards it, I'll get there. I'll get there. So the other project that I'm working on is, as you know, the Mozaica Gunes top, which is a pattern by Sandra of Nomad Stitches, who's Mexican and lives in the UK. She's living the life, guys. Okay, so it's been living in my Betsy Makes bag, which I love, even though it's got bees, and I'm not a fan of bees. I'm actually a bit scared of bees, but these bees are cute, and it's mustard. So I've actually worked a little bit on this. Not a lot, just a little bit. And I am up to my, pulled my stitches. That's what I'm up to. Pulled a whole bunch of stitches. All right, well, whoop, pull that up. Okay, so I haven't actually given you a lot of detail of this pattern, and I'm going to be doing that now. I'm going to be correcting this mistake once I actually untangle myself and can show you this, what I'm working on. Right, so the Mozaica Gunes top is a mosaic colorwork top that was inspired by the Turkish baths in Spain. And they were inspired by the tiling. So the mosaic that you have at the bottom is meant to show the tiling. And I think it does it very well, just not what I've done here, because note to self, never choose variegated yarn again for color work. It's just bad. It's not a good idea. I don't know why I thought it would be a good idea. But I'm gonna fold the top and just pull it closer, because at least I had one solid color, so you can see the solid color, the design that you were meant to. And for the color work, I used sock weight yarn. The variegated yarn is a BFL silk blend, and the mustard gold yarn is a Coupe Knits yarn, and it's a very thin fingering weight, 75-25 superwash merino nylon. But for the cream sections in the yarn, I am actually using Knit Picks, and I'm using Knit Picks Comfy Fingering in the ivory color. It is 75% Pima cotton, 25% acrylic. I love working with this yarn. It's really, really nice to work with. It comes in 50-gram balls if you're not familiar with Knit Picks. But here's the thing that ever since I've become a serious pattern designer, I've had people write, wondering why their project didn't come out the way mine did, why it didn't stretch the way mine did. So one of the first things I always ask is, what yarn did you use? And what was your tension? Because that's gonna affect it. I designed this pattern with my tension, and I designed it with this certain yarn, so I know the properties of this yarn, and if you use something different, well, your gauge is going to change, right? So she's designed the garment to be in entirely fingering weight wool yarn. I didn't want that, because then I wouldn't be able to use it in Florida, which is where the cotton comes in. I don't think that in itself was a problem. I didn't use cotton for color work, obviously, because in color work you kind of want the stickiness of the wool. But when I did my gauge swatch, I matched her gauge perfectly. As I started working on the pattern, this is going to be huge, and once I block it, it's going to be a tent. So even though I started with the yarn, the hook that's called for in the pattern, which I don't remember what hook that is right now, but I started with that hook, and then I decreased to a 4mm hook for this second color work section, and then for the third color work section I went to a 3.75mm hook, and that's what I'm using to work the body. The top is crocheted, as you can see, bottom up, and then you split for the area where you're going to have your sleeve opening, and then you do your front and your back separate. So that's where I'm at too. I'm doing my front and my back separate right now. So maybe by the next time I podcast in 2 weeks, I'll have a finished garment to share with you just in time for autumn, which these colors are perfect for. So that's the Mozaica Gunes top. I think it was my first time in using color work and practicing color work crochet, so I would recommend it. It's not too difficult. In mosaic crochet, single row mosaic crochet done in the round, the things you really have to keep in mind is that you will work your single crochet stitches in the back loop only and your double crochet stitches in the front loop only. And that's really all you have to keep in mind. Unlike traditional color work, you only work with one color in each row, so that makes it easy. The hardest part for me was that I only had a chart to follow. Charts. I feel like it takes me a little bit longer for charts to stick in my brain than normal words that are written down. So those are all my crochet projects. Those are all my crochet projects other than the Spice Your Life blanket, which I've been thinking about pulling out because the colors are very autumnal, so who knows, I might pull it out and work on it for a little bit. But I've also worked a little tiny bit on the socks that were supposed to be finished by now because they're my mom's Christmas socks. We'll get there in the end. But yeah, that's really all the crafting that I've been doing. I've been thinking about crafting. As I mentioned, I have an idea for my husband's sweater that I'm very excited to get to work on. And I also had an idea for a simple crop type sweater for me using a Betsy Makes yarn, and it's in a lovely gold mustardy color. I traded with Mom and we bought it when the Hotel of Bees shawl came out, so 3 years ago? But anyway, I think that's pretty much all I've been up to crafting wise. Also, the thing I wanted to mention is that it's Secondhand September, in case you've been following on Instagram or you shop secondhand anyway, so you're familiar with the term. I really wasn't. I started shopping secondhand when I moved to Florida because I just love all the refurbished furniture that people take and they take the time to paint over. So that's my first foray into secondhand shopping. And then I started secondhand shopping for clothes because I don't really like modern fashions that much, but one of the things that I have found when shopping for secondhand clothes is that you have to be very mindful of the cuts because some cuts are very 2000s. And I don't know about you, but the 2000s fashion was... Actually, lies. My first foray into secondhand started in college with books. You know me, I talk about Better World books all the time, and it's where I get most of my used books. The other half I get them from local charity shops or thrift stores in the area, and actually that's what I went to do this Saturday. I went thrifting and I found 3 yards of a cotton linen blend fabric for $2. So of course I grabbed that, and I found 3 books. One's for my mom and 2 are for me, and I also found a lovely agate necklace and a top with French bulldogs. So, you know, buying secondhand it's very interesting and you can have a lot of fun, and it's also very creative because let's say you find a top that is the most perfect print in the world for you, but it's a men's size, or it's simply too big for you. Well, you could hack it and turn it into something entirely different with all the fabric, and it might have cost you what, $1, $2, $3, $4, $5? So I've been having a lot of fun there as well. And now that speaking of books, I wanted to chat to you about some of my favorite Hispanic writers. The first one that I'm going to mention is, I think she writes in English and then translates to Spanish because she is a Puerto Rican that was raised in New York, if I'm remembering this correctly, and it's Esmeralda Santiago. And one of my favorite books from her is Cuando era puertorriqueña, or When I was a Puerto Rican. It was very moving to read her story and how Puerto Rican parents, when they moved to the States in, I forgot what year she moved, but speaking from my mom's experience, my grandparents would try to make sometimes just all American foods because they wanted their children to fit in. And it's just, It's also very hard to read because I feel that nowadays we're searching a lot for our identity, and to read or hear the stories of family members that try to remove that identity so they would fit in to where they are I know it's something that still happens, right? But sometimes we think, no, we live in a better place. That can't happen right now. And it does. It still does. So I really recommend that book. And another writer that you're probably familiar with is Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And his books are also translated into English, if I'm not mistaken. And he writes a lot in magical realism. I fully enjoy magical realism. And one of his books that I love the most is El Otoño del Patriarca. And I do not know the translation in English, but it was one of the books that I had to read to do a book report on, and I just love how it's a bit of a love story, but it's also it talks about a tyrannical ruler and how his life story, how he started, how he met his wife and things like that. So I really liked it as well. And there are so many Hispanic writers. They're indie writers and well-known writers. There's so much to read out there that I wish I could read in every language, because I'm one of those weird people that like to read the books in the original language they were written in. If I can, obviously. I don't read Japanese, I don't read Chinese, I read French. So I do, I have some French books, that are in French, but mostly I read Spanish and English. So sometimes you just need translations. But yeah, I fully encourage you to check out Esmeralda Santiago, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Those are two well-known Hispanic authors, and they write beautifully, and you can connect with them. I know Isabel Allende is also a popular one. I don't remember books that I've read from her. I know I've read books from her. La Casa de los Espíritus. I think that's one. But I think what I most read from her is a little short story anthology, and there was one whose name was Clarissa, so I read that. But yes, there is a whole world of books to explore in the Latin American community, and I encourage you to do it. They are fun, and it's just very, very interesting to read how people express themselves in other cultures. So yeah, I think that is where I am leaving you today. I had a lot of fun actually putting this content together, mostly because it was all pumpkin, but also Latin American crafters as well. I've just been feeding my feed with all of their gorgeous makes, and I'm going to continue with my color work endeavors. Hopefully the next one is tapestry crochet once I finish the cushion. I think I can only handle one color work project at a time, mostly because it's very hard on my hands. At least this Intarsia color work, because I've been doing that yarn under, then yarn over, instead of just yarning over. And I just feel that it's a bit harder on my hands. Do you guys feel that way? Well, before I leave you today, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who commented and shared how they decorated their house, if it's either for Halloween or for fall. I've decided to go halfsies. I've decided to incorporate some of the traditional elements of Halloween into my fall decor, because historically, you would have them both. It's historically in Halloween, or Samhain, or El Día de los Muertos, which is on the 1st of November, actually, you would have multiple ways of celebrating. So don't just stick yourself in a little corner when it comes to celebrating. We need to celebrate the little things, because there's just been so much bad going around that celebrating the good, it needs to be done every day with gratitude. Yeah, and moving, yeah. So there's that. And the other thing I wanted to say was a huge thank you to everybody who comments, likes, subscribes, shares, and purchases a pattern of mine from Etsy, visits my blog. If you cannot spare money right now, which, hey, lost my job twice during pandemic, so I know how you feel. Just visiting my blog, it's free for you, and it also increases my views, and at some point I will be able to subscribe to a better ad service to actually get revenue from my blog, which is the most exciting thing ever, and that's where I'm kind of looking forward to this year. So yes, thank you. It wouldn't be possible without you. And before we leave today, I have a quick query. I'm in a conundrum. I've had a lot of Latin American followers recently, or at least Spanish speaking followers, and I've been doing some video tutorials both in English and in Spanish as well, and I've just been wondering, should I separate my YouTube channel into like one for English and one for Spanish? I feel a bit weird doing that, because to me there is no separation. I'm bilingual. I've always published in English and Spanish. The podcast has always been English. I tried a little stint on doing a Spanish podcast, but guys, it was so time consuming to record in English and then record in Spanish and then edit them both. Boy, it was time consuming. But the blog has always been bilingual. The patterns for the most part have always been English and Spanish. The difference is that now I'm separating them, and I'm doing one blog post entirely in English and one blog post entirely in Spanish when it comes to the patterns, because I feel that that is easier for you guys to read than just have one English and one Spanish in the same page. But anyway, my camera battery thingy is flashing at me, so I'm out of time for today. Thank you so much for spending crafty time with me. I hope that you guys are okay and that you continue to be okay and have happy crafting. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye!